Hi everyone. Thank you for joining the webinar today. We're just going to give it a minute or two just to give people a chance to join, and then we will get started. Hi everyone. Thank you for joining the webinar today. We are going to give it a minute or two to give everyone a chance to join the webinar, and we will then get started. Right, I think we can get started now. So I want to thank all of you for joining us today for the Introduction to Digital Ads webinar, delivered by our friends at IG. So on the call today, we have Caitlin and Charlie from IG Advisors who will be delivering this webinar. I'm Sahil. I'm the Key Partnerships Manager at Big Give. So I may have spoken to some of you via email. So I'm just going to do some bit of housekeeping before we get started. So I just want to remind everyone, we have the chat function on the right-hand side of your Zoom panel. So if you want to introduce yourselves in here, share ideas, do a bit of networking, please do write in the chat function. Make sure the to setting is set to everyone so everyone can see what you're saying. If tech issues, please put them and we will get to them. If you have any questions for the Q&A portion of the webinar, please use the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom panel and put your questions there and we will pick them up. If you put them in the chat function, sometimes it's hard for us to keep track of them and we may not see them. We also have a transcription service. So at the bottom of your Zoom panel, you should see the More button with 3 dots. If you click on that, and open that up, there should be an option to turn on the transcription service. And all of you are muted, so just remember, all any comms, put them in the Q&A box or the chat function. And a final reminder, I would like to try and encourage everyone for any questions you have to try and keep them focused on the content of the webinar, just to maximize the time we have with Caitlin and Charlie. If you have any process or operational related questions, we have a webinar next week called Ask Us Anything. That's on Friday. And that's where you can ask the Big Gift team any questions you have related to the campaign, related to the platform, how it works, any questions related to operations and processes. So that's probably the best use of the time. And that's the webinar to ask those questions. Or, of course, you can email us hello@biggive.org in the meantime with any other questions that you may have. Just a reminder, the Christmas Challenge is a digital first campaign. It's a digital match funding campaign. So all donations have to be made via your Big Give campaign page for donations to be matched. Campaign dates are 3rd of December, which is Giving Tuesday. It launches at midday and closes at midday the following Tuesday. And yeah, just use the hashtag Christmas challenge in your social posts so we can see your posts and we can also share them on our channels as well. I think that's all from me, so I will hand over to Caitlin and Charlie now to get started.
Fantastic. Well, hello everyone, slash hello again if you joined us yesterday. It's so lovely to be spending the next hour together. Quickly recapping who we are, we're from IG Advisors, we're a strategy consultancy, and we work with the philanthropy business and nonprofit sectors for social and environmental change. You can see some of our wonderful clients on the screen here. We are experts in fundraising, strategy design and activation, and we run the Fix the Flow Fellowship Programme, which is a training course for fundraisers and funders. I am Caitlin. I'm one of the advisors at IG. You have my email address. You can scan the QR code for my LinkedIn. So if you have any questions after the session, do reach out. We're very, very friendly, I promise. And I'm joined today by my wonderful colleague, Charlie, if you want to say hi.
Hi everyone, Charlie, IG Advisors. Really pleased to be with you today.
And please do let us know who you are in the chat, because we love seeing familiar names, familiar organizations, as well as new people. And a quick reminder of why we're here today. Yesterday, we had a think about the fundamentals of designing our fundraising strategies for the match funding campaign. Today, we are looking at digital ads, and I want to preface this session by saying this is very much an introduction to digital ads. So if you've run a whole ton of ad campaigns before, you feel like you already know what you're doing, then maybe the next hour isn't the best use of your time. However, if you are new to digital ads, if you want to learn more about Google Ad Grants, welcome, stay tuned. There's a lot more fun stuff coming up. Okay, so we're going to start off with just an overview of different types of digital ads that you should be aware of for your match funding campaign. And we're then going to dive into Google Ad Grants specifically, because a lot of organizations will be eligible for Google Ad Grants, and it's a very, very useful tool. And then, as we said, we'll hold space at the end for Q&A and we'll wrap everything up. So by the end of the hour, you'll know the fundamentals of digital ads, Google Ad Grants. You'll have worked out how to prioritize your efforts across different digital ad platforms, and you'll have an opportunity to ask burning questions. Before we get started, though, we always like to get a feel of who we have with us today and how you feel about this topic. So you've 5 seconds, rapid fire. Drop an emoji in the chat that represents how confident you feel using digital ads for your crowdfunding campaign. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, a lot of sad, distressed looking faces. Do not worry, we're going to turn that around by the end of today's hour. But also some silly faces, some curious, inquisitive faces. We're going to make sure that this is a fun session, and we're going to make sure that we're asking all of those questions, answering all of those questions that you're curious about. So do not worry, everyone. We see you, we've got you. We're going to be fine. So let's start with the basics. What even are digital ads? Digital ads are paid for advertisements that you can use to promote a whole range of things, but for the purposes of this, it's going to be promoting your cause and your match funding campaign. It's a complementary tool to your social media posts and your wider digital fundraising strategy. So we really, really want to stress that digital ads are one tool that might be in your toolbox, but they should not be the only thing that you are doing this match funding campaign. Make sure that you are using your mailing lists, you're reaching out to people on social media, over email, you're calling people where relevant, you're having coffees. This is just one string in your bow. It's not the only thing. Really, really important to stress that. And if you do use digital ads, you want to make sure that you're using them strategically. So if you joined our session yesterday, I'd take a look back at the guiding stars you set for yourself, the goals you set for yourself, and ask yourself, how can digital ads help me meet those goals? If the answer is they're not really going to help me, then don't use them. If the answer is, oh, actually, this might be an interesting tool, then think about how exactly you need to be leveraging digital ads, who you need to be targeting them towards, what do you need from them to feed into those wider campaign ambitions. So why might you be considering digital ads? What are the benefits? So digital ads help you raise awareness of your cause and your campaign. And importantly, they help you reach people who aren't necessarily already following you on social media, already regularly checking your website. It helps you to reach people who might be aligned and very interested in your cause, but aren't necessarily in your direct bubble and sphere and community right now. You can use them to promote engagement with your online content, to drive donations, to drive signups, to attract volunteers. There are a whole load of different calls to actions that you can include in your digital ads. And we're going to cover that a bit later in today's session. So think about not just how you want to use ads for this campaign, but also with a Google Ad Grant, there is a very generous grant budget. So when you're listening to our training, think about the next year and how else ads might be beneficial to the work of your organization and what you do. Now, it's also worth mentioning some challenges with digital ads, because as with everything, they are a tool that come with advantages, but also come with disadvantages and risks. So first of all, as we said, if you're going to use digital ads, it does take time, it does take resource. So you need to make sure you're using them well and you're using them strategically. They should not be used in isolation. So we've already said this, but make sure you're doing all of the other things, your social media, your emails, your events, your calls, your coffees. This should not be the only thing you're doing. I know a lot of organizations on the Christmas Challenge campaign are smaller. They maybe have limited time, limited resource to spend on digital ads. So it's really worth thinking carefully about what you want to prioritize. And it might be that you decide, actually, I don't have capacity to do digital ads this campaign. And that is completely legitimate. If you decide, actually, I want to focus on audiences that we're already really well plugged into and target that as the lowest hanging fruit, that is valid. And final thing to be aware of, you need to test what works. With digital ads, it really is trial and error. You need to explore different copy, different headlines. Any best practice article out there that you read will tell you that A/B testing is super important. So you cannot just put one thing out there and expect a huge influx of donations, because I wish the world worked like that, but sadly it does not. Okay, we're going to dive a bit deeper into the specifics of different types of ads. But before we do, just a little reflection. I want you to take 30 seconds and let us know in the chat, what is an digital ad that you clicked on recently? So maybe it was an ad that came up for you on Instagram, on when you did a search on Google, on YouTube. And what made you, if you clicked on it, what made you click? And no shame. I once received an ad on Instagram for high heels, but they were Teletubbies high heels. And I did click on that ad. So no shame. Honest responses in the chat. Okay, so people clicking because of offers of discounts, 100%. That's a really, and I think in the instance of the Christmas challenge, that match funding incentive could be a really powerful tool. Okay. I love the range of things that people have clicked on, and I think there's a really useful lesson there around, no matter your cause area, there is a way to get people to click on your ad. We're having people click on everything from ads about burgers to ads about jewelry to heated cushions. Claire, I kind of want one. You need to ping me the link to that. So I think another key takeaway from the chat is you can create an advert for anything. And we're going to help you to do just that in a second. Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you. And I'd encourage you to continue thinking about what makes you click on ads, because that thought process that makes you click is most likely very transferable and applicable to the way you approach your ads for the Match Fund campaign. So types of ads, let's break this down. First type, social media ads. And I know a lot of you in the chat were saying, we clicked on something through Instagram, we clicked on something through Facebook. So social media ads is where you pay to display adverts to users of platforms like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, you name it. And the key thing about this is it helps you to reach people beyond your following. So you're not just limited to who's already following your page, you can reach other people. Search ads is when people type something. Today we're going to be talking about Google ad grants. So people type something into the search bar of Google and results will appear that are ads. Both are very interesting types of approaches. Starting off with social media ads, I think the key thing to say here is think about your audience. Different social media platforms attract different demographics. So have a little think about where are the key audiences that you're trying to reach? What platforms do they use? A lot of social media platforms have inbuilt ad management platforms within them, which help you to manage all of your grants, your budgeting, your analytics all in one place, which is very helpful and user-friendly. And then the final thing to say here is we're not going to say anything else, because the Big Give has already done some really great trainings around this area. So if you want to learn more about social media ads, take a look at the Big Gives YouTube channel. There's a load of amazing resources there. But if you are thinking about social media ads, let people know in the chat what platform you're considering and why, because it might be helpful inspiration for each other. So drop in the chat. Okay, I'm going to move us on to Google Ads, which is going to be the focus of the rest of this training. And Google Ads it's basically an online advertising platform that allows you to reach people who are interested in your work and are searching related topics, keywords through Google. And it uses a cost per click model, which means that you pay, or if you're using Google Ad grants, money is deducted from your budget each time someone clicks on your ad. So do not worry, we're going to be diving into Google Ad grants, how to write a great ad, how to do your budgeting in a second, but snapshot, this is what we're talking about today. And I'm going to pause here to, first of all, highlight in the chat that a lot of people it seems to be Instagram, Facebook seem to be the most popular social media ad platforms that people are going to be using this campaign. So have a look at the chat, get inspiration. I'm going to hand over to Charlie to talk us through Google Ad grants.
Hello again, everyone. Thank you so much, Caitlin. And yes, we are going to now focus a little bit more specifically on Google Ad grants, because as Caitlin highlighted, it can be a really, really useful tool if you are eligible. So firstly, a quick high-level overview of what Google Ad grants are and how to get one. Essentially, it is an initiative that empowers eligible nonprofits to engage the public through Google search ads. And simply, you can receive up to £7,000 in search ads per month. And the process of applying to receive a Google Ad grant or become a grantee is relatively simple. So first you apply for Google for Nonprofits. Once you have been approved for that, you then apply for an ad grant account. And then the final step is to activate your ad grant account. So there are some resources on the screen that can help you in the right direction to do that. And the way that Google Ad grants works is essentially that those who are using Google Ads in a paid for account will appear at the very top of the search engine as users type in what it is that they're looking for. And then those using a grants account will appear just below. So you're prioritized just below those that are paying for the use of Google Ads. And there's no minimum spend requirement, which is great because it means that you can use your account to, the kind of degree that you want to, the capacity that you have at the time to leverage. And one really interesting thing about Google Ad grants is the possibility to use location targeting, which in the context of this campaign could be really, really useful for some more local organizations, maybe place-based organizations, who can really target their ads towards the local community if that is a key audience that you're looking to engage through your campaign and through these ads. And Google has noted that there is a high degree of success with using this location targeting feature, particularly for smaller local grantees. So worth bearing that in mind. And then one important thing to note, which is a slight limitation of the Google Ad grants account, which is not to discredit it as a tool. It's still super useful. It's just something to be aware of, is that there are some features that you will not have access to as a grantee, as opposed to a paid user. So the main things to highlight here are the use of images and videos. That is something that you can't actually do using a ad grant account. So for the rest of this training, we will be focusing on text copy for ads because of that limitation. It also limits the maximum bid amount, which we will go into in a minute, don't worry, that you can set for yourself using your account. And it also limits you from retargeting people that might have already seen your ad, clicked on a link in your ad to your website, to your campaign page. That is a feature that you're not able to use through the Google Ad Grants account. So again, not to discourage people, just to highlight things to be aware of. Amazing. So we thought it would be useful to just outline some of the key terminology that you might come across when using Google Ad Grants. So starting with a campaign, which in this context is the top high-level structure within which you want to set your kind of ad strategy. So where you identify the goals for the use of Google Ads in your overall campaign. As Caitlin mentioned, really, really useful to think how this feeds into your wider ambitions and goals for fundraising and for the campaign, where you can think about budgeting and targeting, which we're going to go into a little bit more in a moment. And then within that campaign, there are subdivisions, essentially, which are the ad groups, which essentially are used to organize your ads by a common theme. So it's just a useful tool for you within your Google Ad Grants account, where you might have an ad group for, say, volunteer, and then your ad copy is targeted towards that call to action or that user base. Or you might have an ad group which is donate or fund, which is targeting your ad copy towards users that want to give through your donation page or through your campaign page. So just a little tip into how to kind of organize within the campaign. And then within those ad groups, you will have keywords or keyword phrases, which are what triggers your ads to appear below those paid for users when people search those terms. And what happens when people do search those terms is you will have placed a bid, which we're now explained, so don't worry. You will have placed a bid on your keywords or your keyword phrases. So essentially, in simple terms, you are setting a maximum amount of money you are willing to pay for someone to click on that ad using that keyword or keyword phrase. So hopefully that's kind of broken down some of the terminology for you. But I want to test us all and get us a little bit more engaged and thoughtful about what some of the other phrases you might come across when using Google Ad Grants are. So yes, people are already, Amy, thank you so much for popping that in the chat. Let's all just drop your answers in the chat and we will, okay, we're seeing a very strong 100% response rate for A. Well done. A is correct. It is click-through rate, which is essentially a ratio that shows you how often the people that are seeing your ads end up clicking on it. So the higher your click-through rate, the higher your engagement. And it's a really useful tool to measure how well your ads are capturing attention, and then you can adapt and pivot based on those results. Amazing. Next up, CR. What does CR stand for in this context? Coffee readiness, conversion rate, or credit record? And I just want to say that this is a very IG quiz question. Caffeine must feature. And again, everyone, 100%, well done. Would love it to be A, so would I, Jen, so would I. Hard relate to that. But no, it is B, conversion rate, which is the ratio or percentage of people who click on your ad and then follow a link to your campaign landing page, your donation page, and commit a gift to your campaign or your cause. Okay, last one for everyone. Let's see if we can keep the 100% success rate here. What does CPC stand for in this context? So cost per click, cost per coffee, or cost per conversation? Okay, we are almost at 100%, not quite. This one is A, cost per click. So essentially how much it costs you as the organization posting that advert for someone to click on the keyword that you have set for your ad groups. Okay, I feel like everyone here are really experienced quiz goers, so love that. Thank you for participating in our quiz. Just to recap and think a little bit more about your strategy and approach to how to use Google Ad grants for your organization and in your particular context. Budgeting is, I would say, something you have to think slightly less about if you are eligible to receive a Google Ad grant. If you are paying for the use of Google Ads, that's something that we would recommend spending a bit more time thinking about, because you will be paying for it yourself rather than just kind of a deduction coming off of your total budget. So for those of you that are eligible for a Google Ad grant, you would receive up to £7,000 a month, as I said before, and that is an in-kind grant. So you don't have to pay every time someone clicks on your advert. It simply is deducted from your daily budget, and you'll have a daily as well as monthly budget through your account. And you are free to allocate that grant however you would like. So of course, for this Christmas challenge campaign, but also beyond that, looking to use search ads in other areas of your fundraising efforts. So maybe you want to push a volunteer drive as well for something else. You can feel free to do that and use those kind of ad groups that I talked about before to target your ad copy towards those different kind of drives and allocations that you might have. And then, as mentioned, cost per click will simply be deducted from your budget. Okay, so in thinking about your strategic approach to ad grants, it's also important to think about who you're targeting and how you're targeting them. So I'm not going to go through everything on the screen. I just want to highlight a couple of key areas on here, which is the geography, which I pointed to before. Depending on your campaign, your cause area, your focus, you can use this location-based targeting tool to promote your match funding campaign, either in your local community, at a national level, at a global level, depending on your context. And that is a really, really important thing to think about before you launch into your ad grants usage for this campaign, as is the intention element of Google Ads. So the most beneficial element of using Google Ads is that, of course, the people that are searching to either volunteer or donate or support a particular cause area already have that intention to go and do that thing. So you are able to capture people that already have the intention. You've already got that first foot through the door. That first hurdle has already been crossed. So it's a really, really great way to engage those people. And I mention that because it can be really helpful to think through that intention carefully and how you might be able to really relate your ads to that intention. And we're going to do some of that together in just a moment. So a little bit of best practice. Taking us back to the key terminology, keywords are going to come up a lot if you're using Google Ad grants. It's a really, really important part of your strategy. And the best way to kind of make the most of keywords and keyword phrases, which is interesting, it's keyword phrases, but it's keywords, but you can only use phrases. You can't use single word keywords in most instances. There is a exceptions list, but just to note, keywords, confusingly, is actually keyword phrases. So think about more than one word. And we really want those keywords to be relevant and competitive. So you can use the keyword planner, which is linked in the slide. which is a Google tool that will help you to do this. But the key thing to remember is keywords must relate to your organization's mission in some way. So you could be promoting an event, you could be promoting something else that is indirectly related to your mission, as long as it is focused on your mission. That's fine, but that is a rule to bear in mind. And when we say competitive keyword phrases, what we mean by that is thinking a little bit outside the box in terms of what keywords might people click less on, and then you pay the amount you pay for someone to click on that word will be slightly less. And we'll get into that. Another thing to consider when writing your ad copy and your descriptions within your ads is just to be super clear and concise with what you're writing. It's only a short amount of text, so we really, really want to be clear and want to capture that user's attention as soon as they see our ad. And also to always include a clear call to action, as in all of our fundraising fundamentals recommendations. It's always really useful, whether that's volunteer, support us, donate. We really encourage you to include some kind of call to action in your ad copy and to link directly to your campaign landing page. So you're providing a route for users to really, really easily contribute to your Christmas challenge campaign. And when they click on that campaign landing page, then it's really important that there's consistency between your ad and your website page or campaign page. So we would really recommend for you to think about that when approaching writing your Google ads. Okay, lots of information. We want to put some of it into practice now. So we would encourage you to close your eyes if you feel comfortable, if that works for you. If not, feel free to keep them open. But the key thing that we would love for everyone to do in this exercise is to get really imaginative about a dream donor or someone that you know is a really likely potential funder for this Christmas challenge campaign. They are about to do a Google search for cause, an area that they want to contribute to that is going to lead them to your campaign. So we're going to take 2 to 3 minutes to think, who are they? As it says on the screen, what demographic, how old are they? How much wealth do they have? What sorts of things do they care about? Where are they right now? We can get as granular as, is it the end of their working day? Are they searching this during their lunch break? And what have they just been doing? What has made them want to search, to do this search? So have they maybe just met a member of your team? Have they seen something in the news about your particular cause area? Have they been to an event, or has one of their friends or colleagues recently supported your organization or an organization in your area? So we're going to spend, let's start with 2 minutes from now, really imagining these things. And I'm just going to leave everyone for 2 minutes now to think about who, where, and what your dream donor or likely funder for this campaign might be. just 30 more seconds and we're going to come back together. Amazing. Okay, I know that isn't so much time, but enough to get us kick-started. And you can continue doing more of this after the training if you wish. Now that we've really imagined up this donor and embodied this dream donor, I want us to think about what it is they're likely to search in Google for what your keyword phrases could be for your ads. So ask yourself, which keywords would this donor type into Google to find your organization's work? And there are some examples on the slide for inspiration. So let's start with 2 minutes to start writing some keyword phrases for your Google ads for this Christmas challenge campaign. And please do share at least one of them in the chat with us so that we can share and get inspiration from each other. So 2 minutes from now. Amazing. Thank you, everyone, dropping your wonderful phrases in the chat. Love to see the range of organizations and causes on here. And some really, really good keyword phrases that you've all created here. And I love where we can mention the location. I love that you're taking that into consideration in your keyword phrases. And the use of different verbs: support, help, volunteer, donate, give. And you can test these keyword phrases. So you can start with, support. If that's not necessarily getting you the click-through rates that you would like, maybe you try give, donate. Amazing. Okay, time is up, but thank you all so much. And please do continue thinking up these keyword phrases, dropping them in the chat if you wish. We're gonna think now. We've thought about our keyword phrases. We're gonna drill down into the actual description and add copy that you might want to think about writing for this campaign. So we've got an example on screen of a Google ad. And as you can see, the key features are simply there is a headline to the ad and there is a description within the ad. Now, a couple of things to pull out about this. This ad is really effective in the way that it is clear and concise. As we said before, we don't want something super long or complicated. It actually can't be very long, but we'll get into that in a second. We want it to be really, really clear to someone that is searching for to support your general cause. So if someone is knows that they want to work with educational causes through volunteering, they immediately know that this organisation is suited to that interest and that they can learn more about it. What this ad doesn't do so well is in the headline, there is a link to their page, but there are no links to any other kind of useful resources below the description. So we would recommend during this campaign to think about including links below your description, specifically, as I mentioned, to your campaign landing page, if you have one, or to your donation page, whatever the kind of most useful direction for that user is. And there are extensions within your Google Ad Grants account that you can use to do this. So just a couple of things to think about. We are going to continue this interactivity and putting all of this good best practice into practice. But before we do that, just some top tips on the screen for you. As outlined in the example, make sure to have a headline and a description. Short, non-repetitive sentences are great. Make sure to draw out the unique aspects of your organization. That's what's going to help attract people to your cause over other people's in the same kind of area. And please, please, please make sure to include some kind of call to action. In this case, probably support, donate, give, as we so rightly put in the chat. Hyperlinks, yes, great. And a couple of restrictions to be aware of are that you have 30 characters maximum to use for your headline and 90 characters maximum to use description. And a little tip to avoid some uncommon acronyms and abbreviations. So 3 minutes from now for us all to take some time to ourselves and start thinking about some ad copy that you could write for one ad for your campaign. And you don't need to type out the whole thing in the chat. That's okay. But we'll start 3 minutes and think about a headline and a description, working backwards from thinking about your dream donor, your keyword phrases, and what that person might be searching when they are typing this into Google. Wonderful. Thank you so much for those of you that have put your ad copy in the chat. I love this, Joy. Super, super concise, super clear. You've also leveraged the urgency and benefit of donating through the match fund campaign, which is really, really great. Amazing. Okay. Hopefully that has been helpful. Again, aware that it's not enough time, but hopefully this has been a useful exercise to get you thinking, to get the creative juices flowing, and you can go away and continue thinking about implementing these tips and best practice into more ads. And speaking of more ads, Caitlin mentioned this at the beginning of the training. This Christmas challenge campaign, we would really encourage you, if this is, your first time or you're early on in your journey of using Google Ads as a tool, we would really encourage you to use this as a testing ground. You don't have to get everything perfect the first time, and it's a real opportunity to use your Google Ad Grants account to test what works and what type of ads perform best for your particular fundraising efforts during this campaign. So A/B testing is a really popular method of testing different kind of versions of ads. We really want to make sure that you're using this grant as effectively as possible. And basically what this refers to, as is on the screen, is the process of comparing two or more versions of ads. And you can test different headlines, different descriptions that we just thought about in that exercise, and or different calls to action that we've spoken about through this training. And try targeting different audiences with different ads. So maybe that is the location-based audiences, or different kind of features of your audience. Are you targeting their age or different elements like that? So this is a really, really useful exercise to do, and a good opportunity to start thinking about analyzing and using the analytics that you have access to within the Google Ad Grants account to really optimize your ad performance. So we'd really, really encourage you to think about that. And obviously during campaign period, as it's a week, this is something that you might have to think about doing more often than you might usually in a general digital ads campaign period. That might be kind of checking and testing and optimizing a little bit less frequently. Okay. Wonderful.
Thank you both
So
for
much.
such a great webinar. It was really a lot of things to digest, but really helpful. So thanks. Thank you. We do have quite a few questions, as you can imagine, on this. So we'll just crack on. Rosie Smith has asked, can you apply for an ad grant account if you already have a standard Google Ads account?
My understanding is yes, you can.
What's the
as long
difference
as you're eligible.
Oh, yeah.
So check
Which
the
you should,
eligibility
yeah.
rules.
But I'm pretty sure, yeah, if you have the registered charity number, yeah, you should be
Yeah.
eligible to apply. She's also asking, what's the difference between click-through and a conversion?
So a click-through is referring to the ratio of people clicking, or the percentage of people clicking on your ad, whereas a conversion is you're converting that click into a donation.
Yeah, and I think this ties into some questions that we've had about the URL that you put in the ad. Because obviously your campaign pages are hosted on Big Give's website, I think within the Google Ads account, when you're setting up the ads, you can't use that because it wouldn't be the charity's own URL. So the charity, what our advice would be is for the charity to set up a landing page on their own website, which then links to their Big Give campaign page, and then to use that link as in the ad. So it'll provide click-through rates, but it would not provide conversion, obviously, because it won't be able to track what's going on once donors hit Big Give website. So that's something to be aware of when people are setting up ads.
Yeah, that's really, really useful. Thank you for elaborating on that. And
Yeah.
then in terms of where that link sits, I know there was a few questions in the chat about this. Underneath your description, it wasn't present in the example that we provided, which is why we highlighted it. You can add links under the bottom and it will come up in blue like it normally would as a hyperlink.
Someone has asked, we are using an agency to run the Google Charity grant for us because we got the impression if it's not managed properly, we may lose the eligibility to receive the grant. Not sure if this is true or if it's something that we could potentially manage in-house. Yeah, is that something that that's true that they may lose eligibility to receive the grant?
I would say there are guidelines and kind of compliance things to consider. There are some resources in the deck to check the kind of compliance guidelines, and I would recommend using Google's actual guidelines on that to check the specific things that you have to meet in order to maintain your account. I know that there are some things related to your click-through rate. There's a certain percentage that you should be hitting each month in order to maintain your account. I believe it's 5%, but don't quote me on that. So I would really recommend checking Google's official guidance and compliance information and considering whether those are things that you think you can overcome and bring in-house to your organization.
And that question, that information about the 5% actually links to Jack Bennett's question. They used a Google ad grant last year, but never ended up using it because the 5% click-through rate seemed a bit too intimidating. Do you know how to best manage this, or what are the odds of actually hitting the target?
My recommendation would be to really, I can totally understand why that would feel intimidating. Two things I would say. One is, this is, for the purposes of this Christmas challenge campaign, it's a week long. So I think in terms of hitting that target, if you really want to utilize the account for this purpose, then that should be something that doesn't actually need to factor too much in your consideration, because the kind of percentage that you need to hit is monitored on a monthly basis. So for the purposes of this, I don't think you need to worry too much about that. And then more widely beyond that, I would say the best way to manage that is the optimization tools. So really making the most of the analytics that you have in your Google Ad grants account and testing what works and iterating if something isn't performing so well. So if your click-through rate on a particular keyword phrase within your ad group isn't performing very well, you can change it. Test different things, and the worst thing that's going to happen is maybe you don't reach that target and then you aren't able to use it anymore, but you've tested what works, and maybe it ends up that that's not the best tool for your organization. But I would encourage you to use the optimization and analytics tools available to you.
Yeah, and it's also the mindset around the learning opportunity. And if it is something that you're thinking about, then at some point your organization needs to give it a try. So trying to, managing those expectations internally, talking about it as a learning opportunity, all of that will help you take the pressure off as well.
Joy is asking, because it's a week-long campaign, do you have any advice on timings on when to set up the ads and running dates? Yeah.
Good question. I would say it depends whether you have an account at the moment or not, a grants account. I would probably suggest using this like pre-campaign period time to think about the eligibility side of things and the setup and that kind of thing. And especially if you're linking to hopefully your campaign landing page, that's going to be most effective during the campaign period, I would argue, so that you can really make sure that users are following through to where they need to donate.
Yeah, and we always say, like, you can talk about your cup, and definitely we always recommend, have coffees with people, let people know it's coming up in newsletters and everything. You can definitely talk about the campaign before it goes live. But if you're doing that with your ads, then you need to make sure it's really clear on your landing page that for the match funding to be applicable, it needs to be within the Big Give campaign window. So if you do start pushing out ads in advance, make sure it's super, super clear how they can be eligible for that match funding.
I think that's a really good point, actually, just to refer back to Caitlin's recommendation and really stressing that this is obviously one tool within your armory, if you like, and that maybe the pre-campaign period is a really good opportunity to use different tools that you're leveraging in this campaign period too.
And then just looking at the terminology, Rosie's just asking, she doesn't quite understand what is a ad group.
Good question. I think maybe it could be helpful to think about ad groups outside of the campaign context, this particular Christmas challenge campaign context, because the way it works is that they're essentially like subdivisions within your overall campaign where you can kind of set for your ads. So as I mentioned before, whether that might be you set volunteer or volunteering, and then your ad headlines and ad descriptions within that are targeted towards that and targeted towards the keyword phrases that people will search when they have the intention of searching an opportunity to volunteer, whereas another ad group might be focused on donate or give. But it can be useful to think outside of the campaign period because, of course, your kind of goal for this campaign is to drive donations rather than drive other things, I imagine. So I think that could help to kind of clarify the way that you can use ad groups beyond this campaign. Don't know if you would add anything, Caitlin, to that.
Fern is asking, could you specify whether it's better to target people by advertising your entire organization and its different entry points, like St. John's ad example you used, they spoke about volunteering and promote Big Give as one way to support, or whether it would be beneficial purely to promote Big Give itself and use that as an entry point to your organization? I just chip in here and just say it depends what you want from your ads. If it's purely to drive those donations for the Christmas challenge, obviously then just focus on that Christmas challenge ads. But if you are doing a bigger piece on raising awareness of your organization, trying to get more people to find out about what your charity does, then you can do that multiple piece where you are setting up different ads for different purposes, and assigning different budgets to that. And depending on like if you want more people to engage with your charity for volunteering or to find out about a specific like cause area, etc. But I don't know if Charlie or Caitlin, you have anything to add to that?
Completely agree. Always go back. You want to be strategic, so always go back to your objectives for the campaign. And then to follow on from that, if you're encouraging people to click through to a landing page about the match fund, then think about, okay, this audience that we're targeting through our ads, what information do they need to see on our landing page to get a really clear understanding of who we are, what this match funding campaign is about, and what the benefits and incentives are for them. So it's not just about having a good ad, it's also about having a good page that that ad is linked to. And I think that's worth saying.
Got a few more questions left and a little time, so I'm going to try and run through them as quickly as possible. So someone's asking, how many ads can we have running at the same time? If each ad targets a different audience, we may want lots. Yep, you can set up as many ads as you want, targeting different audiences, and see which ones work. And then Judith's asking about the eligibility criteria for Google Ads and where they can find it. We will be sharing the slides with you after the webinar. It'll be on the Trello board. So you'll be able to access the slides and all the links in the slides, such as the eligibility criteria. With only a week-long campaign, would we have time to be testing keywords and A/B testing? Do you have any advice there?
Yes, I would say totally appreciate the kind of concern with that. It depends on how much time and resource you have to commit to this kind of strategy, this ad strategy, and how much of a priority it is for you. Because as mentioned, due to the fact that it is a week campaign, this is something you would have to think about more regularly than normal. So sorry that that's not super helpful, but I think it's dependent on how much of a priority this is for your campaign.
There are two more questions and we'll wrap up. So Rachel's asking, is there a big give a video that we can use? Is this available? We will be releasing the promo video for the Christmas challenge in November, around, I think it'll be around 2 weeks before the campaign starts, and we will share that with you. And you can use it on your socials. And the final question we have from Hannah is, how do you know how much to bid?
Good question again. There are resources linked throughout the slides that will guide you to Google's guidance around these things. And there are tools within the Ad Grants account that will help you determine like the average amount that it would cost you to bid on a particular word and things like that. So please do go into a bit more detail with your research and strategizing after this webinar.
I think, yeah, we've just run over time, so we'll wrap up there. But I want to thank Caitlin and Charlie for delivering another excellent webinar. A lot of content to digest, but hopefully all useful for you. I want to also thank all of the attendees for joining us today, for taking part and interacting with the webinar and asking some great questions. Our next webinar is on Friday about creating content at 12 p.m. So I hope to see a lot of you there. In the meantime, have a great rest of the day. Bye.
Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.